His story begins today with the appearance of a young man, while he was masked by his neck and surprising, and says what happened. I am alive. Impossible. For a while I was remembering what happened to him before he woke up from sleep. He remembers that he was one of the great warriors in the past. But one of the warriors surrounded him and wounded him with the sword. The warrior says to him, he is standing while he was falling on the ground from wounds. The warrior says, this is the way that ends. Giselun Bertium, the king of mercenaries. The warrior falling on the ground from the wounds is Giselun Bertium, the king of mercenaries, while the standing warrior is the bearer of his sword, one of the 7 best warriors in the continent. The noble knight, Eden, says, Eden has ended. The war has ended. Any last words for you? He replies to him, saying the king of mercenaries, Giselun Bertium, not unfortunate. I was not able to achieve his revenge. Eden looks at him and says, for your argument, I did not expect to be the oldest son. For the falling family of Bortium, I left the family after the death of your sister, right? Giselun says, how you know that, and you are from his king. I know I have made my best for a long time in an attempt to follow you. Because we were the one who worked with his family, Dolphin, to bring down your family. The king of mercenaries is annoyed by Giselun from that news, and says to himself, there were other people behind this other than the family of Duke Delphin. Idon says, well, there is no benefit from explaining the matter more because you will die soon. Just accept your fate now. The king of mercenary Bertium screams, and he is annoyed, O slave. I will never forgive you. Eden beheaded the head of the mercenary, Giselun Bertium. The story moves to Giselun, who is holding his neck and looking at the mirror, and says, he cut my head. Yet I am here, and my head is still on my shoulder. Was all this hallucinating? I will serve as infidels of magic experiences, or something like this. These arrogant jewelry will make them. They regret my life, while it is immersed in thinking. So if one of the soldiers shouts, sir, please, come out, the young master, I know that you are awake. A soldier from Bortium, Cardo Giselun, goes to the soldiers quickly. He takes the sword and makes the soldier to the soldier, and says, I will live you if I answer my questions. Soldier Ricardo says, I think this is a cross-border, sir, is a young man. He says that he gave birth to his response Ghislaine asks the soldier what you are talking about. The soldier says, I am tired of your anger earlier, and slept. He says what? I am not the soldier. He says, did you forget everything? After taking his saying, I had anger with anger about the way the group will be ordered with the raids of Elgalen. Giselun Elgalen says what? I had anger with anger. What is this nonsense? The soldier says all your purposes are waiting. Washing, the soldier asks, where are we going? Al-Talati says we are going to ownership of bird, of course. Giselun screams and says, what do you say again? It comes out of the tent and looks from the top of the mountain to the property. He says to himself that it is really owned. Why is it sound? I saw it, and has turned into ashes. At that time, the soldier goes to him. He says, do you have a terrible nightmare, or something from this invitation to your home as a fallen house? You will be expelled if the contractor hears that. Giselun says to himself, do I dream now? But I do not think that is my younger face. The emirate in its original state. This means that I went back to the past. I have sought my smaller myself from the family. The lack of maturity resulting from the feeling of inferiority, which led to the problems. With the passage of time, more family members avoided me. I was not able to bear the criticism and fled away from the house. After several years, I became mercenaries who have survived from countless battles, strengthened my skills and made a name for myself. Returned to Bortium Clips to compensate for the mistakes of the past. But my house had already crashed and turned into dust when I went back. I lost everything. But now everything here is still all the people who are still here. I cannot even believe that. I want to sing a song, Farah, but it is too early to rejoice. He said that we are here for his raid on Elgalen. I not forget that day. This day is the day that most people will die in the raid division. In my previous life, I used to follow the Garret Elgalen band in an attempt to make a name for myself. At that time, the report said that there were only 3 Galen. They were fighting. It is easy, including enough for a person who has no experience in leading his division. But when we got there were more than 20 ghouls. Almost all of it ended because I was stubborn and I wanted to lead the group. It should be implemented, including enough. Given that these Galen did not really have a strategy, the problem is if these men will trust, because they all believe that I am an inevitable tomorrow. While Ghislain was suddenly thinking about the Galen attacking them, you destroy one of the monitoring towers. Galen attacks the soldiers and kills the soldiers, suddenly, screaming one of them, "Prepare the formation, do not panic, so that we can enter the defense formation." The raid of the raid. Skoven was the one who orders the soldiers, so they are formed to defend themselves. He attacks one of the Galen, but Galen repels the attack. Skoven says we have caution. We are exposed to an ambush. While we were not ready, absolutely, there is more than reported. Also, at this rate, we will all die. One of Galen is trying to strike her, Commander Skoven, from the back, but Ghislain goes towards the leader, keeps him out of danger, and does his attacker, the young master Ghislain, in his attacker, and cuts off the soldiers. With the commander Skopen with amazement. They did not expect the young master what he did. Then, the young master Ghislain dropped the ghoul, heading towards the leader, Skoven, and asked you. The leader is correct. The young master Ghislain extends his hand towards the leader and says, "Give me the validity of the leader. Give me the right to lead." Commander Skoven says to himself, "What is the right to lead? I know that I am foolish, but to ask for the right to lead when our soldier's life is to be simulated." Commander Skoven gets up and says, "I cannot. Do you think this is his game? Even if you are the young master, I cannot give up the authority that roses gave me this easy." The young master Ghislain is upset by the leader's response, and says this is annoying though. I was narrated in the same way. If one came to one of the foolish, and asked the right to lead, one of Galen attacks the people of the young master and leader Skoven. The leader says, "Recover, I will take care of things here. You are still without experience to lead our forces." The young master Ghislain says, "I have no choice," to throw his sword towards the ghoul. But the leader Skoven is upset with him. He holds his clothes and tells him, "What do you think? That you are an actor?" Who looks at the leader, Skova, to the ghoul finds that the sword has hit his head. The ghoul falls on the ground. The leader says to himself, "What? How did he get his weak point?" The young master, Skoven, "Doesn't you also know what is the most important thing in the battle? There is no hope to win the battle when you are. Our forces are full of fear. We need to gain momentum." Go the young master with an accelerator to take his sword, and go towards Galen. That attacks, and kills her. The soldiers look at the young master, and did not believe what they see. After what ends the first ghoul, the young master screams and says, "Come to you, Galen, I will kill you all." Galen attacked the young master, but he attacked them and injured them deeply. The leader looks at her and says to himself, "Am I dreaming? Even as a mana user is difficult for me to do anything. So how does this slim young master do all this? I can already say that he is tired, but he uses the smallest movements to avoid attacks, and he uses his skills in the sword to strike their weaknesses, such as Sayed Saif without mana, or maybe something greater." The young master Ghislain shouts on Galen, saying, "Is this all you have? My body did not heat up until you do not rise to the level of you hurt as a warrior type." Soldiers look at the young lady, who are surprised. They say they are all rushing towards the young master. Why is the young master running? Commander Skoven looks at the young master and says to himself, what she thinks of hell. Running was to the Gillen group and attracted their attention. Well, but the escape now. In this direction, there is the edge of the slope. Commander Iskoven thinks and commands the forces to establish the wall of the shield. Commander Skoven says we will follow the first son. The young master escapes and Galen pursues him. He says to himself, "Skoven, I am sure that you realized what my plans are, if you were a skilled leader." He is fighting Galen on the edge of the slope and says, "Although I prefer to cut them all myself, my ability to bear the filth will not be able to deal with that until then. This should be enough for you to deal with it." The forces are surrounded by Galen on the edge of the slope. The young master says, "This is excellent." Throwing himself from the slope, Commander Scoven, the soldiers, orders to attack the besieged Galen on the edge of the slope. The forces are doing what the Galen happened, and dropping them from the top of the slope. While the young master was adhering to the edge of the slope and did not fall from the slope, the soldiers rejoice after getting rid of the Galen, and say that they finally managed to kill all these guilt. But the leader Scoven went towards the slope to help the young master. Ghiselin finds him sticking to his sword, smiles the leader and says to the young master, "He grabbed my hand," but Ghiselin could not hold the leader's hand and slid his hand from the handle of the sword, falls from the top of the slope. After his roof from the slope, he wakes up while he was in one of the houses, and he was treated from his wounds. Looking at himself, says, "I am alive. They seem to have been able to save me." Ghiselin tries to get up, but he is exposed to severe pain from his body. He says, "My whole body hurts me. It should be a result of pushing my body to the maximum. Well, I think this makes it easier for me to know that I am still alive." One of the girls interferes with him and says, "Mister, you are awake," looking at Ghiselin, and says, "Blinda." Blinda says, "Do you know how worried I did not tell you? You must let the soldiers deal with the goblins." The young master goes to embrace Blinda, saying what to do. "Did you do something wrong, Mr. Al-Shihab?" says, "I am happy to see you." He says to himself, "My personal teacher, Blinda, since I was young, she was the only one that continued to stay next to me despite the stupid behavior. But after the family destroyed and disappeared, I was no longer able to see it again. I never thought that I walked it like this." Blinda says, "What makes you happy like this while we see each other every day?" Ghiselin says, "I want to tell the truth to Pauline. Listen to me with care. It will be a catastrophe on Bardium soon." The teacher says, "Blinda, what do you say?" Mercenary King Ghiselin Bardium says that I have died and returned to modesty. Plenda interrupted him, and she definitely says, "I'm sure that Galen almost knew you." He says, "What is this?" "Not what I mean." Blinda says, "Are you aware of you, Bridium, in a greater danger?" Blinda reprimands him and tells him if she continues to make chaos, she may go to prison. "Really? Stop performance and do stupid things. Do you understand?" He says, "She does not believe me. I think this will not succeed." "Grandfather, what will you do if you were so much that you were not able to go to the festival?" Ghiselin did not remember the festival. The teacher says, "Did you really forget that? Mrs. Elena was waiting for the day when she would go to the festival with you. It will be a great opportunity for you to be close to each other again." Ghiselin says, "Right. There was a festival that is always held at this time of the year. In the past, I did not have time to enjoy festivals because of my painful experience." The teacher asks how long to the festival. Says the teacher, "The next week. You have a week until the festival." Ghiselin says, "The week's week, which changed my life. The memory that is still chasing me." She remembers a girl asking him to go with her to the festival. He says after 1 week, Elena will die. While he was remembering, one of the girls knocks on him the door and says, "Are you inside?"